Well, hello, greetings, everybody. This is Brandon King welcoming you to Quills of Kin, episode number 2. We have done one before this one. So glad to have you here. And my guest, of course, sorry, I'm just kind of catching up to what I'm doing here, is Taylor Hunter. She's in the room. You can see her there. You can wave at Taylor. I waved at Taylor. You can do it too. You don't have to, but if you feel like it, that's fine. So, and I think her internet speed is a little slow today. So you might see her glitch a little bit. Hopefully you don't see me glitch a little bit, because that would mean my internet speed isn't going very well either. But I know where she lives, it's more difficult to get speed than where I am. So anyway, Quills of Kin. If you were here with us last time, or you've seen the video of our first conclave, which is the fancy word we're using for it. Let's see, I think we lost Taylor. I'll see if we can get her back. No, I think she's still there, hiding in the background. There she comes. Yep, there we go. Welcome back, Taylor.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anyway, we use, this is really just a conversation. That's what it's supposed to be. But we last time used a slide deck. We'll use a slide deck today. And it's just basically to give our attendees a place to kind of hang their hat, if you will, so they know kind of what we're talking about and when we're talking about it. So we should be able to see the next slide, which is, hey, welcome. So Taylor, can you see that slide? So we're all good. You've kind of glitched again, those are a little bit, but there should be a welcome slide. So, and we have topics, because our goal is just to have a conversation between each other. If we have guests with questions, then we want to answer those questions as best we can. You can send them to us in advance, those of you who are on our newsletters, and maybe next time we'll show you a way to do that, to join our respective newsletter lists. You can join one, you can join the other, you can join both. You don't have to join at all. Your choice. But at any rate, we'll just again, because this is new, do a quick overview of who we are, and then we'll talk about the author's dilemma. That we'll spend a fair bit of time with that. And then we'll take a look at new things on our horizon as authors, and then bits and bobs, anything we kind of think of at the end, and then Q&A to wrap up. And the final slide will show you when we next will gather for Quills of Kin. So, who we are includes Taylor Hunter, my guest. She is a multiple award-winning author, an Idaho Author Award winner, which means she's a top Idaho author. And of course, Idaho only has like a couple million people in it. So it's not quite the same as if we were a top author in New York. We get that. But still, hey, in Idaho, we're kind of almost something. Almost. But almost. But she's also a North American Book Awards winner. So that's Taylor. And then the next slide should have something to do with me. And there we are. You can see the face in the round circle looks something like the face on the left side of the screen, because it is in fact the same face, not in the same year, but the same era. We could say that. And you can kind of get a sense of what my writing theme is, because there's one right next to my head. But I also am a Idaho top 10 award winner, and North American Book Awards winner as Taylor is. And the reason that we like to do this, if you haven't figured out what Quills of Kin is about, quills is because we're both writers, and kin is because we are related to each other, which you might have already figured out. Certainly, if you're on our newsletters, it's not like we make a secret of that. So you may have already figured it out. But if you didn't, now you know. And now you are informed. So, what else can we tell you? Let's talk about the author's dilemma. And I think some of you, if you have been following us for any length of time on our respective newsletters, or you're just a fan of, you're a reader, like you're a serious reader. You like to read. You like to read all kinds of things, but hopefully fantasy fiction, which is what both of us write. You could make a case that maybe we write epic fantasy. Some might say that it even occasionally tips into high fantasy. Taylor leans more into steampunk fantasy. I have been accused of doing creature fantasy. So there are all kinds of subgenres, of course. And you may already know that, but there are some things you probably don't know about the author's dilemma. And we just wanted to share a little bit with you about that so you can be more in the know and impress your friends and family over trivia if you want. So there is this notion that when you write a book, you've written your book and now you're an author and, you know, it's all great. And there is something real about that. It certainly is an accomplishment to write a book, and even more of an accomplishment to get it published. And for the sake of what we're talking about here, we are both writers, but we refer to ourselves as authors. And the distinction being there that every year different institutions do surveys of people, and each year it comes back almost exactly the same number. About 80% of the people surveyed, no matter what that number is, how many, and it tends to be in the thousands of people surveyed, give the same answer. About 80% of them say, yes, I feel like I have a book inside of me. And yet, when the follow-up question comes, have you written your book? Only about 1% have actually written the book. So you have a huge percentage of the population, 80% plus, feel like they have a book inside, and yet only about 1% of them actually write the book. So the question comes to mind, why is that? And it's because writing itself is very, very hard. And so we'll kind of pause there for a minute, and then I'll see if Taylor has anything she would like to share on the challenge, just the dilemma of moving from writing to becoming published. Because right now you can see I have on the screen writing versus marketing, and we'll get to that. But just for now, let's pause and talk about writing. So you still there, Taylor? I don't see you on the screen, but my dashboard is telling me that you're here. It's also telling me you're here 3 times, so that is a little confusing. Maybe I'll stop you once and you'll come back. Okay, I think she might be coming back. We'll see here. Yep, there she comes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah,
So you
sorry
got
about
to hear.
that. It got extremely glitchy on my end. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's okay. Welcome back. So let me, I'm trying to remember. I think if I click E. No, that's not really what I wanted. There we go. That's good. So Taylor, do you have thoughts you want to share about just the dilemma of the having an idea in your head and writing it and turning it into a book? Because right now you were on that slide, writing versus marketing, and I
Yeah.
figured we could kind of tee up the second part by talking about the first part, the writing part, before we talk about the marketing part.
Yeah, sure. Um, the curious thing about writing is that you have this great idea and you absolutely go through a slog, a very fun slog, but it's still a slog to get it all written and in a form that can actually be read by other people and they can enjoy it as a properly structured story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you think that that's the end because it's like, well, you wrote the story, therefore it's done, except actually it's not. You've just barely gotten started
Right.
because the story, it's not the way that writers want to think about their story because it's precious to them, but it's essentially it's a product. No one's going to know your product exists unless you tell them it exists, and that's where the
Yeah.
marketing comes into play, and it requires a completely different skill set
Mm-hmm.
to do that well. It's completely different from creative writing.
Absolutely. Well said, and thank you for sharing that. Um, and just to go back for a moment to how you kind of teed it up at the start, the story, we know a lot of writers. We've talked to a lot of writers. As it happens, the part of Idaho that we live in has a really kind of stunning number of writers, some of them who are really quite a thing in the world. I mean, far more well known than we are. Um, Humble people, great people. It's a great community to live in uh, as a writer.
Mhm.
But our stories are precious to us, and so it is a very weird thing. It requires quite a painful mindset shift to move from being so close to our writing that it's almost like a child to then be thinking about our writing and our child as a product. And like it just it really takes some work to get over that threshold. But it's true because as precious as it is to us, the story for the story to get out into the world, it has to at some point become a book. And once it becomes a book, it is no longer our precious. It's no longer like Gollum. Are we like that? No, we're not like that. Um, but we have to kind of let go of that extraordinarily high level of closeness and proximity that we have to our story because it actually lives inside of us before it comes out onto a keyboard.
Yeah.
Um, we do have to let go of that and then get the book written. And part of the reason only 1% of the people ever get around to writing their book is because it's hard. And that's what kind of sheds 79, 80% of the people that say, yes, I have a book inside of me, and it never comes out, which I think is just magnificently sad that that's the case. But it's
Yeah.
hard to write a book. So let's go back to that slide, and then we'll talk about kind of the next thing that's hard. And I don't remember what slide we were on. I have to guess and pick it. And nope,
After that,
nope, nope. There we go. Okay, so
we
writing
were right
versus
there.
marketing. Um, you already have a sense of kind of just some of our thoughts about the writing component of this uh, either or versus kind of the battle between writing and marketing. But here's something you probably don't know. I didn't know it until 2 days ago. How much money do you think Amazon brings in daily? And as you're just kind of sorting through your mind what that number, just what random number pops into your head, let me refine it a little bit by saying it this way. In the time it took me to ask the question, how much money does Amazon bring in daily? That's probably about 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, Amazon makes more money than most American households do in the entire year. They make about $20,000 a second, $1.7 billion a day. It's mind boggling to me. Anyway, it is kind of like, so that's just one little data point you might be able to impress your friends and family with. Go for it. And, if it works well for you, go ahead and send me an email and say, thanks, Brandon. I really appreciate that. No, you don't have to do that. But here's another question for you. How many books are added to Amazon daily? This is where we go from the writing versus marketing part of the author's dilemma, because most people have no idea how big the number is. And frankly, I don't now. A couple of years ago, I know what the number was. But 8,500 new titles published onto Amazon daily, every day. 8,500. So here you are, you're a writer, you go through the pain and suffering of finally writing your book. You move from the 80 some percent of the population on Earth that feels like they have a book inside of them, and you move to the 1% of the population on Earth that actually writes whatever's inside of you. And you have this story now. It could be nonfiction, fiction, whatever it is, whatever you wrote, is now you get it published. You go through that wormhole and get it published. And in that same day that you upload your story, your book to Amazon, about 8,499 other people or publishers or bots upload something. And this is a couple of years ago. And earlier this week, I noticed somebody on one of the many Facebook groups that I belong to that are author centric, noticed somebody did a screen grab and they wanted to share it with everybody in the group, that they had published 2 books. Now, they weren't saying I've published 2 books and they're on Amazon and here's what they are. They were doing a screen grab on KDP where you actually do the uploading of your books. And they had uploaded 2 books within, I think, 3 days of each other. I don't know this for a fact, but I think it's highly likely that that person is not actually writing anything. They're using ChatGPT or Claude or some kind of an AI, maybe an AI specifically designed to write books. And they're just publishing stuff that they hope makes them wealthy, when in fact it's a book that nobody would actually read. But the point of this is that a couple of years ago it was about 8,500 new titles per day. I don't even want to know what the number is now. I'm quite sure it's over 10,000 a day. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's over 25,000 a day because of the impact of AI. But I think you can appreciate if you have that many new titles coming out per year, that's more than 1 million, easily over 1 million new titles every year. And so how do you compete with that? How is anybody ever going to discover your book, which Taylor was alluding to a moment ago, if you don't market your book? Because if you don't market your book, nobody else is going to do it for you. So, Taylor, thoughts about that?
My thoughts are that generally it takes daily effort to not be overwhelmed by the prospect of competing with that many books.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some mood management required each day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unless there are people out there who've been writing, they have the freedom somehow to be able to write. That's what they do full time. And apparently they were able to do that full time before they were bringing in enough money to actually have it be a full time career path, which is great for them. But neither Taylor or I have the luxury. So we have full-time day jobs, and we're trying to build the author career to the point where it can become the day job. But it's a very difficult hill to climb, as it were. So that brings us to kind of the next phase of our conclave, which is just a fancy word for conversation. And that is something that I learned about 10 years ago, and that is the writing component. As hard as that is to do, that accounts for about 10% of the author's journey, if you will. About 90% of it is marketing. And so you get your book written and you're exhausted and you think, I've just accomplished something only about 1% of the population on Earth is going to do in their lifetime. And then you find out that that work that you did to get your book written accounts for only 10% of the job. And now you're facing 90% of the job, which is something you probably don't know anything about. You don't know anything about book cover design, interior design, editing, just for the publishing part of it. You don't know anything about KDP. You don't know about the other platforms that are out there. You don't know whether to go wide, to go narrow. You don't even know what those two words mean in the context of being a writer and author. It's like, wide, narrow. What are you talking about? Hey, welcome to the club. So these are things that we've had to learn over the years, and in many cases overcome over the years. And what we've been challenged with more recently is a very specific kind of marketing, which we're going to show you first. You're the first to see this, except some people on Amazon who have seen it. Random people we don't know. I'll explain what that means in a moment. But anyway, the 90% part, that's where it really becomes a challenge for writers who become authors and then wonder, why has nobody purchased my book? Why is my book just, it seems to be gone into the abyss called Amazon? And it hurts. It's a painful thing. So something that we have been doing now, and I'll see if I can get my face out of the way. Let's see, where do I do that? Settings, move my face. I'll go from extra large to like extra small. There we go. Just a little tiny thing up in the corner. Hey. So we've been doing something called click testing. And it's kind of like pre-ad campaign on Meta or Facebook, formerly known as Facebook. I know it's still known as Facebook. I'm just making a jab at Twitter, now known as X. So, and the idea is to try out something very simple, put them out in very short run, low cost ads to see how people react to them. And so I've been working on this on behalf of Taylor, and the first run of click testing you can see in front of you. I think there might have been more than 10 ads, but they suffice for you to kind of get an idea what's going on. 10 different squares. So they were shown on Facebook and Instagram. And these are what they were showing. And a low number of impressions. We just wanted to see, how do people react to these things? And so I've been talking hopefully long enough for you to skim through what these 10 say. And these are what are referred to as taglines. So they could actually be on Amazon as a tagline for Taylor's books. I think one of them is, actually, I don't remember off the top of my head. Several of these are on her website, which, if you don't know, is taylorhunterauthor.com. So just type in Taylor Hunter Author, no spaces, no underlines, nothing, just all word, all character smash, taylorhunterauthor.com. And so we ran a test, and here's how they did. This was kind of accidental on my part. I just dropped him into the slide, and it turned out to be the number one result was the first slide. So a frightened fairy, a sworn secret, a sinister agency spying on everyone. It did very well compared to the others. Number two was in the corner. That was accidental. I just kind of threw these up here the way they were on my folder. Discover fairies like you've never seen. And this one was quite satisfying to me, and I think to Taylor too, because her first book is literally titled Never Seen as one word. So we knew that, and this was on purpose, and it turned out to do very well. And then number three, adventure fantasy, strong heroine, dash of sci-fi, pinch of steampunk, fun for all ages. So we're trying to kind of hint at not only the genre, but the subgenres as well. So we learned something about taglines, and this was useful, and it will become useful as we continue on her ad campaign build. We're a couple of steps away from actually running full-fledged campaigns on Meta that will take people to Amazon that we hope will result in book sales, because that's what we're talking about: writing versus marketing and the author's dilemma. So that was test one. Test two was to actually use what's referred to as a headline. So if you're familiar with ads that you see when you're doom scrolling through Facebook, the headline, I think, is the bold text that sits under the image and is next to the button, which says might be learn more or buy now or whatever. I believe that's what the headline is. So it was testing what would work best. And here you can see, a little easier to see because of the color, the background color I chose, but at any rate, a couple of these come from people that Taylor knows quite well. Schoolmates, one of them, and we were really, really quite pleased to see how these turned out. They all did well. In the first round of testing, they all did well. In terms of what metrics we were looking for, they all did well. This test, they did well. A couple did really well. One was like, oh my gosh, it did like, whoa, well. And oddly enough, number one, which doesn't hint at all about the genre, absolutely crushed everything else. And as it turns out, we know the person who wrote this, and she is in fact very close to Taylor and her groom of almost 1 year now. We're just a couple of weeks away. Actually, to the hour, Saturday, 2:00. I was there, I remember. So 2 weeks from right now, a wedding was happening, and Taylor was involved in that in a really significant way up front. But anyway, number one, baked the cake for the wedding. And then you can see number two, treacherous world filled with ancient secrets, did very, very, very well, even though it doesn't necessarily declare the genre, nor does number three. And yet they did very well. So we were puzzled in a pleasant way and happy with the results. Then we got to test number three. And all of this is leading towards the end of having a campaign where we've tested the elements of the campaign prior to actually running a campaign, which means we hope, we've been told this works very, very well for a lot of people. And when I say very, very well, like very, very well. So anyway, this one, you can probably tell from reading these are actually more testimonials or actual reader reviews. All of these are reader reviews. And so you've had a chance to look at them. You can see these are more clearly signaling genre, subgenre, that kind of thing. And here's how they did. And again, it wasn't intentional to put number one in the top left and number two in the bottom right. It just happened that way. Sorry. Um, but yeah, number one, looking for something different than the generic fairy tale and magic plot in stories these days? This is your book. Boom. This particular ad did very, very well. And it was really quite fun for me to tell Taylor about it when the results came through, because there's a certain someone she's quite close to who wrote that book review before they were even engaged. It would happen to be Taylor's groom who wrote that. So good on you, groom man. You wrote, we didn't know at the time, I had no idea that you would be the author of the winning book review testimonial kind of a thing. So anyway, you can see the other ones here. We were thinking these are all really, really good. And they are. And several of these are on our website. You can find almost all of these on Amazon. Some of them are in Goodreads. But anyway, they did well. And then these are actually running while I speak. This test started yesterday. It's probably going to run through tonight, maybe all the way into tomorrow. It's too early to tell you which of these are going to be the top three. But I can give you a hint what I'm quite sure the number one will be. And again, it wasn't intentional, but it's the one sitting in the top left corner. That looks like it'll be the winner. And you can see it actually uses the testimonial or the headline from test 2 as the copy, and then an image that we created for the background, and then Taylor's book. So 3 components to this ad, where the other ones you could see was just a color background, which is a non-component really, and then the text. So this one has 3 components. So we'll let you know if you're curious. So, and then new things on our horizon. I actually, I'm just looking to see if we have any questions, getting ready for that. Do you remember what we talked about, Taylor, about new things on our horizon?
Uh,
I know, I think last time, did we talk last time about how we're both editing book 3?
I don't remember, but I see in the chat. Did we talk about audiobooks last time?
No. Why don't we talk about that first? You want to talk about audiobooks?
Yeah, sure. I don't know the stats like you do because you have learned them backwards and forwards. But something we learned some time ago, probably about a year ago, was that audiobooks are like the biggest, they're the fastest growing market of books specifically.
Yes.
And it's been really taking off in the past couple of years.
Yes.
So we realized that, like, hey, that's obviously super successful. There are some people that, well, lots of people actually, that either due to their work or like any issues they have with like reading actual words, they prefer to read their books by listening to it. So last year we both actually worked on recording audiobook versions of our own books. We set up a recording studio, and so it's our voices, we're reading our own books. And yeah, I mean they're still in the works, but my first novel is done. Yes, I finished that. It's been a while since I thought about it, but
Yet you
never
didn't.
seen is recorded.
Yeah.
To be clear, that does not mean it's ready,
Right.
because yes, you record the audio, but there's all kinds of, back end. You got to take the background noise, you got to squish that out.
Yeah.
You got to get the volume controls so that even if I elevated my voice in the recording, it's not going to hit a volume that's uncomfortable to listen to.
Right.
Same thing if like you're talking quieter to mimic a whisper or something, you need that to still be loud enough for the listener to hear.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really, honestly, technical stuff that you got to do with that recording to
Hmm.
get it actually ready to listen and to upload anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of essentially the practice I've been getting with that is I also did audio recordings of all of my short stories,
Hmm.
and I've been working my way through those. Obviously it's a short story, so there's not as much to record, but it still takes a long time to edit and get ready to give to someone to listen, because the ratio of record time to edit time is about like 1 to 3, maybe 4. So if you spend an
Maybe
hour
even
recording the
5.
story, you're going to
Yeah.
spend 3 to 4 hours actually getting it to a state where you can listen to it.
Right. Yeah. And you may have already kind of sensed it, but just to state it clearly for you, um, we didn't know these things. So the way that we can now talk about them in a manner that indicates we now know something about them is because there are people out there. Um, a lot of them are individual people who are also authors in their own right and have faced some of these challenges on their own and uh, just kind of powered through. And a lot of them just learned by trial and error. So they spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money to learn how to do these things, and then realized there are a lot of other people like them out in the world, like the two of us. Hey, we'd love to know how to do that too. And so they create courses or some kind of a product or training, something like that, which can cost anywhere from $97 one time to $200 a month for as long as you live to $1,000 one time or what have you. And I won't even try to count up in my head the amount of money we've spent on these things. But it's you kind of either do what I just said, or you find these resources, you do your best to vet them to make sure that they're legit, that they actually know what they're doing, do some search, see what other people are saying. If the person themselves doesn't have any, like a web page where it shows 150 people saying this thing saved my author career or what have you. And then you buy it and then you go through the wormhole and learn how to do the thing. And so we've learned how to do a lot of these things, including how to record ourselves so that the original audio file is editable. Because you might think, well, if I just use my phone and record into my phone, I can then edit that and then I've got an audiobook. Mm, you could, but the chances are only one person will buy it. And when they've bought it and listened to it, they will leave such a scathing review, nobody else will. So there are all these different things you don't know until you find a resource that helps you to know what you don't know and then to learn what you need to know to then do what it is you want to have happen. So our goal is this year. I went through the same wormhole as Taylor and did the audio recording for my first novel. So both of us have our first novel, the raw recording done. Um, we'll probably end up doing the editing ourselves because we know how to. It just takes a lot of time. And each of us put in, I think, roughly around 10 hours to record the book. And both of us are looking at quite literally a full work week, if not a full week of editing to get the raw recording turned into an audio book. Because when it's uploaded into Um, I think it's called ACX on Amazon. That's the portal you have to upload your magnificently huge sound file. It goes through their filter and it will tell you immediately whether your audio recording meets their minimum standards or not. So your phone will never be able to upload into ACX anyway. Um, but so if we do that, it'll be about a week of our life. And that's hard to figure out. How do we carve out enough time to do that when we're working full time? So the alternative is then to find somebody who is a narrator. That's all they do for their day job, and then pay them to do that. And so we'd be paying them for a week of their life. And as you might guess, that would not be inexpensive for somebody who's even fairly new to doing this. So that's one of the things on our horizon. Anything you wanted to add to that, Taylor?
Um, can't think of anything really.
Okay.
I know that we've talked about taking recordings and maybe doing like some shorter kind of author related videos and
Mm-hmm.
putting up on our Patreons on
Yeah.
YouTube and other stuff like that. But like again, we're kind of drinking from a fire hose. I think that's been like I've been doing this. We've been doing this long enough that I shouldn't be surprised, and yet I am
Mm-hmm.
continually at just how much time and effort it takes to do even the simple things,
Yeah.
because it seems so straightforward to just think like, oh, you just make a recording and you post it. It's like, but it's still not. If you want it to actually work for you, which is essentially what marketing is,
Mm-hmm.
you have to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, maybe you have fun making the recordings and maybe with enough time that kind of organically gains some traction. But if you really want to, try to punch it right out of the gate, you need training, you need the
Yeah.
knowledge, or you need to have the means to pay somebody else to do it for you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's everything about being an author either takes a lot more time or a lot more money than you would ever guess, and
Yeah.
often it's both.
Yeah. Well said. And that kind of captures the dilemma. That slide uh, earlier in today's episode.
Yeah.
The author's dilemma is writing versus marketing. Um, and the reason that I have verses in there is you probably have already figured this out. It's like, well, if 90% of the effort needs to be on the marketing, doesn't that impede your writing time?
Yes.
Yes, it does. It really impedes the writing time.
Yeah.
When you already are struggling with managing time and a day job and getting all the marketing done, then with like the leftover 48 seconds a week, it's like, can't you just punch out like 5,000 words for the next, the next four chapters of your book in a half a minute? Well,
Easy.
I guess we could if we go the AI route and just let it write for us and then claim it as our own. Uh, but we just you're not going to get that from us.
No.
When you read our writing, you're actually reading what came out of our head through our fingers into a keyboard, and then got edited by our editor. Um, so the final product is human made, start
Yeah.
to finish, soup to
Mm.
nuts, A to Z, the whole thing. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's us.
Yeah.
Um, because man, if you, yeah, it's not going to be AI
No.
because AI is fast. It knows how to write things, but if you haven't heard the first of our Quills to Kin or Quills of Kin, go ahead and listen to that, and you'll hear me wax eloquent for a while about how AI um, can do things quickly. It doesn't mean it does things accurately or well. It's just fast.
Yeah.
And the way that it learned how to do all that was on the backs of literally tens of thousands of authors who never gave it permission to scrape their books and learn from them. So consider that for a moment too. Uh, it I don't know if I'd say it's nefarious how it came to be so educated and learned, but it would rhyme with nefarious. Yeah, you can figure out what I mean by that. So, okay, we're coming up at the close of our time together. I think I might have forgotten to turn on Q&A for this episode. I
Oh.
think I might have forgotten to do that. So I'm not sure if we're going to have any Q&A because I don't think I actually toggled the switch on for people to be able to do that.
Oh.
So that's unfortunate. My apologies to anyone who had a question. Uh, we do have people that signed up for this episode of Quills of Kin, and we thank you for that. Um, but if those of you who are in the chat now have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll do it that way. There is a way for me to turn on to toggle on a Q&A, but for now, we'll just use the chat. So if anybody has a chat question, type it in. Bits and bobs, generally random stuff that we have. What was I going to share today with the group? Well, just that we are doing this campaign for Taylor. We're kind of at the front end of it. Well, not quite the front. We're not at the back yet. There's still 2 more sessions of massive amounts of learning that I get to go through on her behalf, which I'm happy to do. And we really hope that by this time in March, about a month from now, that we might have something to report to you in terms of her book sales.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see a question we have. What things in your daily life inspire you? You want to take a swing at that, Taylor?
Oh, sure. That's a good one. Um, when it comes to storytelling, you never really know where your inspiration will come from. I think
Mhm.
that's part of what makes it kind of magical, even for the writer. Because the way that we both write is when we started our stories, we were like, "Hey, I have this idea and I have this scene, and I'm just gonna go with it." And there's not really any plan behind it. The plan unfolds in the process of writing it.
Mhm.
So we've been inspired by like back in the day when we would listen to online radio kind of stuff. There'd be a song that would suddenly come on while we were writing, and it'd be like, oh wow, I just got an image that I did not expect at all. This is awesome.
Mhm.
And you'd take off writing the rest of that scene, kind of like it was like you're writing with the music.
Mhm.
So I know music, it's like that definitely still plays a big role in inspiring like the actual writing process.
Mhm.
Um, Beyond that, just like kind of what helps fuel like me as a writer is the kind of stuff that I want to be reading.
Mhm.
And so I'm finally getting back to reading again, because for many years it's like I was in college, it's like all the reading I was doing was not fun. It was in fact the opposite of fun. It was all the boring stuff that you don't want to be reading.
Yeah.
And then kind of for first couple of years of working, I wasn't really reading for fun again, because it was like, well, I'm going to work and then I'm still trying to do this author stuff. But recently I finally picked up a story that I read back in high school and absolutely fell in love with it.
Mhm.
And that was Out of the Silent Planet by
Mhm.
C.S. Lewis. And it's the first of his space trilogy. And
Right.
if the name C.S. Lewis sounds familiar at all, he's, I think, best known for, at least in like a novel sense, of writing the Chronicles of Narnia. He's the
Right.
author of that series, which was more geared towards kids for sure.
Mhm.
but at the same time, there are really profound messages and themes and characters that he told in those stories that sometimes I think mean more as adults
Hmm.
after you've experienced the world and kind of have a different framework for understanding things. Um, his space trilogy is kind of like it's more of an adult adventure. You know, the stakes are higher,
Yeah.
and some of the conversations are, you know, very deep and meaningful. But even when I'm reading Out of the Silent Planet, some of these conversations, it's like that sounds so much like something that he wrote in Narnia or in one of his nonfiction works. Just the idea behind it, and you know the mindset shifts that the main character is going through.
Hmm.
Kind of recognizing, you know, whatever filters that he's looking at the world through and realizing, hey, maybe I've got this backwards actually.
Hmm.
um, so that's I'm glad that I'm getting back into reading again because that helps a lot with wanting to write stories. Just reminding
Yeah.
myself this is what I want to be reading, and that means there's got to be at least one other person on the planet that also wants to be reading this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, because it's, I think, very much my story, as you know. Just hasn't been much time to read. Um, but when you do, particularly when you go back to something you're familiar with, and C.S. Lewis has a great quote, and I don't know it by heart, but he actually um, has quite a famous quote that goes something like this, um, that it's something like, if you're writing a story for kids, it should actually be at least as pleasant to read for an adult. It's That's not it even close, but
Yeah,
the
I
whole
think I know
idea.
that one.
Yeah,
I think it's something along the lines of the like if a children's fairy tale can only be enjoyed by children, then it's not a good story at all.
there you go. Thank you. Yeah, that mine sort of had a flavor of it, but that's, you got the thing almost verbatim, I believe. Um, but it's particularly if we're going back to a story that we're familiar with, uh, even if it is in fact from our childhood, which for you, I think you were originally reading Out of the Silent Planet um, when you were probably technically a child, uh, at least before you were 18, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Something.
it was in junior high. I think it was high school, but
Yeah.
you know that was some time ago. And
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got a lot more life experience now, so reading those same conversations in the story,
Hmm.
it hits very differently now. I mean, I
Hmm.
knew it was good then, but now it's like,
Right.
oh, okay, I can appreciate this differently.
Exactly what Lewis was referring to, that it can be very meaningful and super fun to read when you're young, but because you're young and you don't have as much life experience as you do when you're older, there are elements of the storyline that you don't they don't really connect with you. It's not like you don't like them or you don't get them. You just don't understand the context. And as you're older, you understand the context of that part too, and it kind of expands the impact of the story, um, in all good ways. So, but as you were talking, you were just reminding me that that experience for me not only helps me fall in love with the story even more than I had before, but it helps me fall in love with the process of creating a story. So then it kind of revs me up
Yeah,
to get back into my own story, which reminds me of the thing that I had been planning on mentioning, and that is we are both just very recently returned to our own third volume in our series,
yeah,
because each of our series, Taylor's series is the Phelan Legends, and mine is the Gargoyle Chronicles. And both of us have 7 stories planned. Both of us have written significantly in all 7 of the stories, but only 2 of the books are published.
yep,
2 for her, 2 for me. Obviously, the first 2 in the story series. But both
Yeah.
of us, just in the last couple of weeks, uh, cracked open a bit of software, which is for the author to kind of get a handle on what they're writing in more of an editing fashion. And both of us cracked open the software to do that for our third book, because both of us, it's close to finished. And both of us are really aiming to get book three finished, have a cover designed, get the interior edited, laid out so it's pleasant to read, um, and published this year. Hopefully by before Christmas. And ideally, well before Christmas, like, I don't know, day after tomorrow.
Nah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, but sometime between the day after tomorrow and Christmas. How's that? Probably much closer to Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you for the question. Hopefully that gave you something to think on. And Q&A, that's what the slide looks like when I actually have Q&A turned on, which will be next time for sure. And then as far as next time goes, our next Quills of Kin, episode 3, will be on the 28th of March, a month from now, at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And so we're just a few minutes over. We aim for about 50 minutes. Really aim to close it up within an hour, just out of respect to your time, so you can go back to doing other things. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I did. Thank you, Taylor, for being here. It's always nice to see you. I mean, we are
It's nice to
related.
be here.
Yeah. And so if you are on Taylor's newsletter list, you know how to get a hold of her. And why don't you send her an email 2 weeks from now to say happy anniversary? Because it'll be
Thank you.
her first anniversary.
Yep.
So there you go. Well, thank you, Taylor.
Thank
I
you. This
always
has
love to
been
see you
awesome.
because, I always love you and love to see you
Yeah.
because, I'm your dad.
Mm-hmm. And I'd love to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, kiddo. So thanks for being here, people. And we will, we being me, with probably some help from Taylor, take this episode, do some light version of editing to it, put on an intro and an outro, because we've already done that with episode 1. And if you're on our newsletter, each of us have our own newsletter, and you can kind of tell after a bit that we are related because we refer to each other from time to time. But in each of our respective newsletters, we will put in a button or a link or something. So if you missed episode 1 or 2, you can click on that and then go listen to each of these 2 episodes. So just for fun. And if you're not on our newsletter list, I guess next time I'll put in a link for you so you can do that, because we can do that, I think, somehow. So we'll find a way. So anyway, thanks so much and hope to see you next time.
Yeah.
March
Thank you.
28th, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. So thanks for being here, and we'll wrap this up. Thanks.
Bye.